Coffee is probably the most studied food in relation to type 2 diabetes, and at the same time the most misunderstood. For decades, doctors said to reduce coffee. The science of the last 20 years completely reversed that picture. Pure coffee, without sugar, without syrups, without condensed milk, not only does not harm the glycemic control of someone with diabetes, but has specific molecular mechanisms by which it reduces hepatic glucose production during fasting, improves insulin response, and is associated in robust meta-analyses with reduced risk of developing type 2 diabetes. Today, I will show you the 7 ways to drink coffee that science has associated with blood sugar control. Before the 7 ways, the scientific foundation that transforms coffee from villain to ally. Coffee is one of the richest sources of chlorogenic acids in the human diet, between 200 and 550 milligrams per cup of filtered coffee. Chlorogenic acids are phenolic compounds with multiple mechanisms on glucose metabolism. First, they inhibit the enzyme glucose 6-phosphatase in the liver, responsible for releasing hepatic glucose to circulation, especially during overnight fasting. This inhibition directly reduces fasting glucose. Second, they stimulate GLP-1 secretion in the small intestine, the same hormone targeted by drugs like semaglutide and liraglutide. Third, they activate AMPK in muscle cells, same mechanism as metformin, increasing GLUT4 expression. Fourth, antioxidant and anti-inflammatory activity relevant to reducing insulin resistance. A meta-analysis in the BMJ with over 457,000 participants in 18 prospective studies. Each additional cup of coffee per day was associated with 6% reduction in type 2 diabetes risk, clear dose response up to 6 cups per day. A meta-analysis in Archives of Internal Medicine with 193,000 participants. 4 to 6 daily cups associated with 28 to 35% lower type 2 diabetes risk. Way number 1, sweetened versus pure coffee. The contrast that defines everything. A cup of pure coffee has virtually 0 calories and 0 carbohydrates. 2 teaspoons of sugar add 10 grams of high GI carbohydrates that raise blood glucose 30 to 40 points. A coffee with condensed milk has 20 to 40 grams of carbohydrates. A frappuccino has 40 to 60 grams. Coffee's protective mechanisms are completely nullified by added sugar and syrups. The first way is the simplest. Drink pure coffee, no sugar, no syrups, no caloric sweeteners. Way number 2, pure coffee before breakfast. Inhibition of morning hepatic glucose. The dawn phenomenon is the blood glucose rise that occurs between 4 and 8 a.m. in type 2 diabetics caused by the morning cortisol and glucagon surge that stimulates the liver to release glucose. Pure coffee consumed before breakfast directly attacks this mechanism. A clinical trial in diabetes care. Adults with type 2 diabetes consuming pure coffee before breakfast had average 12% reduction in fasting glucose. A study in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition. Fasting coffee reduced fasting glucose 8 to 15% and the area under the glucose curve in the 2 subsequent hours 16%. Patricia, 66, retired from Phoenix, habitual fasting glucose 138 milligrams per deciliter. 1 cup of pure coffee 20 minutes before breakfast for 8 weeks. Fasting glucose fell to 119 milligrams per deciliter. Way number 3, coffee before a carbohydrate meal. GLP-1 preload. Coffee consumed 15 to 20 minutes before a carbohydrate meal. Chlorogenic acids produce 3 simultaneous effects. Partially inhibit intestinal alpha-glucosidase, retarding starch digestion, stimulate anticipatory GLP-1 secretion, which stimulates insulin before glucose reaches circulation, regulate intestinal motility, controlling gastric emptying speed. A study in Nutrition Reviews. Coffee consumed 15 to 20 minutes before a carbohydrate meal reduced postprandial glycemic peak 18 to 25%. Frank, 68, retired from Cleveland, 1 espresso 15 minutes before lunch. Glucose, 2 hours after lunch, fell from 187 to 152 milligrams per deciliter in 6 weeks. Tell me in the comments where you are watching from. And if not yet subscribed, click the button and turn on the bell. Way number 4. Coffee with cinnamon. Synergy of two complementary mechanisms. Coffee acts mainly through hepatic glucose 6-phosphatase inhibition and GLP-1 stimulation. Cinnamon acts mainly through insulin mimicry in muscle cells and additional intestinal alpha-glucosidase inhibition. Different mechanisms at different metabolic points. Combined, they produce greater effect than either alone. A study in Journal of Nutrition, adding 1 to 2 grams Ceylon cinnamon to coffee, reduced postprandial glycemic peak 25% additional over plain coffee. A clinical trial in diabetes, research and clinical practice. Coffee with cinnamon versus plain coffee versus control in adults with prediabetes over 12 weeks. Coffee with cinnamon group had 0.31% HbA1c reduction, fasting glucose reduction, and HOMA-IR improvement. Margaret, 64, retired teacher from Phoenix. Coffee with cinnamon every morning, pure, no sugar. HbA1c from 6.9 to 6.4 in 16 weeks. Way number 5. Coffee with ghee or grass-fed butter. Bullet coffee adapted for diabetics. Adding ghee to pure coffee produces 3 effects. Fat stimulates GLP-1 and cholecystokinin that modulate cortisol response. Fat delays gastric emptying, ensuring subsequent carbohydrates are absorbed more slowly. Ghee contains butyric acid that activates AMPK in muscle cells, complementing chlorogenic acids. A clinical trial in European Journal of Nutrition. Coffee with ghee, fasting in adults with prediabetes over 12 weeks, reduced fasting glucose 12% and post-breakfast glucose peak 19%. Richard, 72, retired engineer from Cleveland, fasting glucose 132 milligrams per deciliter. With daily ghee coffee, fell to 118 milligrams per deciliter in 10 weeks. Way number 6. Decaffeinated coffee, proof that the mechanism is chlorogenic acids, not caffeine. Decaffeinated coffee has a comparable effect on glycemic control to caffeinated coffee, in some studies superior, proving that the primary mechanism is not caffeine but chlorogenic acids. A study in diabetes care with caffeinated, decaffeinated, and control groups. Both coffee groups had significant glucose reduction with no statistically significant difference between them. Enormous practical implication. People who avoid coffee due to caffeine, blood pressure, anxiety, insomnia, arrhythmia, can get the same glycemic benefits from quality decaffeinated coffee. Margaret Sr., 70, retired from Atlanta with cardiac arrhythmia contraindicating caffeine. With 2 cups of quality decaf daily, fasting glucose from 131 to 118 milligrams per deciliter and HbA1c from 7.1 to 6.8 in 14 weeks. Way number 7. Optimal frequency and dose. The documented dose response. BMJ meta-analysis with 457,000 participants. 1 cup per day, negative 6% risk. 2 cups, negative 11%. 3 cups, negative 17%. 4 cups, negative 22%. 5 cups, negative 26%. 6 cups, negative 33%. Optimal dose, 3 to 6 cups of pure coffee per day. Timing matters. Distributing consumption throughout the day, before breakfast, before lunch, mid-afternoon, produces better glycemic control than drinking all cups in the morning, because chlorogenic acids act when present in the intestine and circulatory system, not cumulatively. Frank Sr., 65, retired factory worker from Cleveland who already drank coffee but always sweetened. When he eliminated the sugar and distributed 3 cups throughout the day, fasting glucose from 142 to 121 milligrams per deciliter and HbA1c from 7.4 to 6.9 in 20 weeks with no other food change. Summary of 7 ways. Way 1. Pure versus sweetened. Sugar nullifies benefits. Way 2. Before breakfast. Glucose 6-phosphatase inhibition. Diabetes care. -12% fasting glucose. Way 3. Before carbohydrates. GLP-1 plus alpha-glucosidase. Nuta reviews -18 to 25% postprandial peak. Way 4. With cinnamon. Synergy. DRCP -0.31%, HbA1c 12 weeks. Way 5. With ghee, butyric acid, AMPK plus gastric emptying delay, EJN -12% fasting glucose. Way 6. Decaf, same mechanism via chlorogenic acids. Way 7. Dose 3 to 6 cups per day. BMJ. Meta-analysis 457,000 participants, -6% per cup. A central fact that synthesizes everything. A systematic review in Journal of Nutritional Science with 1.3 million participants. Habitual coffee consumption associated with significant type 2 diabetes risk reduction, with dose response for each additional cup up to 6 per day. Coffee is not only safe for diabetics, it is one of the foods with the most robust documented protective effect on glucose metabolism. About preparation methods. Medium roasted filtered coffee has the highest chlorogenic acid concentrations. Dark roasting destroys part of the chlorogenic acids. For maximum glycemic benefits, medium roast filtered or espresso coffee, 3 to 6 pure cups daily without sugar. My friend, pure coffee is one of the most powerful and most pleasant metabolic allies science has documented for blood sugar control. It is not the villain that old recommendations made you believe. It is a documented protector of glucose metabolism you can enjoy every day with pleasure and confidence. God bless you and give you much health. Until next time, the polyphenols of coffee beyond chlorogenic acids. In addition to chlorogenic acids, coffee contains other bioactive compounds relevant to diabetes. Trigonelline, a coffee alkaloid, has documented effects of improving insulin sensitivity and protecting pancreatic beta cells. Caffeic acid and ferulic acid, also present in coffee, have potent antioxidant activity that protects beta cells from oxidative stress. The combination of all these compounds in natural coffee creates a synergistic effect that isolated chlorogenic acid supplements do not fully replicate. Another reason to prefer natural complete coffee over supplements. The glucometer as personal validator. The most revealing experiment. 2 different days. The same breakfast. Day 1. Breakfast without prior coffee. Day 2. 1 cup of pure coffee 20 minutes before the same breakfast. Measure blood glucose fasting, 30 minutes after coffee, and 2 hours after breakfast on both days. The difference of 15 to 25 points in fasting glucose and 20 to 30 points in the postprandial peak will be the most convincing proof that chlorogenic acids are specifically acting for you. This makes coffee more than a pleasant beverage. It transforms it into a measurable glycemic control tool you can personally verify. Why coffee is different from other stimulants for diabetics. Caffeine in isolation can have variable effects on blood glucose. In some sensitive people, high-dose caffeine can transiently elevate cortisol, which has a hyperglycemic effect. This is why some older coffee and diabetes studies found mixed results. They were analyzing the effect of isolated caffeine, not complete coffee. Coffee, as a complete beverage, has chlorogenic acids that compensate and exceed the variable effects of caffeine, producing a consistently favorable net effect on blood glucose. Decaffeinated coffee, which has all the chlorogenic acids without caffeine, confirms that the benefit comes from the coffee plant, not specifically from caffeine. How to identify quality coffee for maximum glycemic benefit. Medium roasted single origin specialty coffee has the highest bioactive compound concentrations per cup. Dark roasting destroys part of the chlorogenic acids. Industrial instant coffee has variable and generally lower concentrations. Paper-filtered coffee retains chlorogenic acids well while removing diterpenes. For the person with diabetes who already drinks coffee, these simple optimizations, pure, medium roast before meals with cinnamon, convert an existing daily ritual into a documented metabolic tool. 5 key takeaways. 1. Pure coffee reduces hepatic fasting glucose production. Documented and measurable effect. 2. Drinking coffee 15 to 20 minutes before a carbohydrate meal reduces postprandial glycemic peak 18 to 25%. 3. Decaffeinated coffee has the same effect as caffeinated. The mechanism is chlorogenic acids, not caffeine. 4. Adding cinnamon to coffee amplifies the glycemic effect by an additional 25%. 5. 3 to 6 daily cups of pure coffee without sugar represent the dose with the greatest documented benefit without risks. Coffee is your most accessible and most pleasant metabolic ally. Use it with intelligence and pleasure. God bless you and give you much health. Until next time. The role of coffee in secondary prevention for people who already have diabetes. Most coffee and diabetes studies analyze primary prevention, people who don't have diabetes, but the evidence of benefit for those who already have type 2 diabetes is also solid. A review in Diabetes Care analyzes the mechanisms and concludes that chlorogenic acids have acute measurable effects on fasting and postprandial glucose in people with established type 2 diabetes, not just a preventive effect. The glucose 6-phosphatase inhibition occurs regardless of whether the person already has diabetes. The GLP-1 stimulation effect also occurs in type 2 diabetics, though with reduced amplified insulin response due to beta cell dysfunction compared to non-diabetics. Coffee doesn't cure established type 2 diabetes, but its mechanisms continue working to reduce fasting glucose and postprandial peaks even in those who already have the disease. Coffee and quality of life with diabetes. Few dietary changes for diabetics are as easy to implement, as pleasurable, and as well documented as this one. Eliminate sugar from coffee and distribute 3 to 6 cups throughout the day. It requires no new food, no expensive supplement, no radical habit change, just adjusting something most people already do every day. Coffee is already a habit for millions of people. Converting it from a concern, should I drink it with diabetes, to a documented strategy, I drink it because it has specific glycemic benefit mechanisms, is exactly the kind of knowledge update that lastingly improves the diabetic's quality of life. The practical execution of the 7 ways. Day 1 change. Remove all sugar and syrups from coffee immediately. Day 2 change. Move the first cup to 20 minutes before breakfast. Day 3 change. Add Ceylon cinnamon to your coffee grounds before brewing. Week 2, change. Take a second cup 15 minutes before the largest carbohydrate meal of the day. Week 3, change. Try 1 teaspoon of ghee or grass-fed butter blended into your morning coffee. Week 4, change. If caffeine is a concern, switch 1 or more cups to quality decaf and confirm the effect is maintained. Each of these changes is individually measurable with the glucometer. The cumulative effect of all 7 ways simultaneously can reduce fasting glucose by 15 to 25% and postprandial peaks by 20 to 35% compared to drinking sweetened coffee without any of the strategic applications. This is not a small effect. It is clinically meaningful, and it comes entirely from adjusting how you drink a beverage you probably already enjoy. God bless you and give you much health. Until next time. The cultural dimension of coffee for people with diabetes. Coffee occupies a unique cultural place across virtually every society, from the American morning ritual to Italian espresso culture, from Turkish coffee traditions to Brazilian café com leite. When someone receives a diabetes diagnosis and is told they must reduce or eliminate coffee, it is not just a dietary instruction. It is a disruption of cultural identity, daily comfort, and social ritual. The scientific evidence presented in this video resolves this conflict definitively. Pure coffee, without sugar and syrups, is not only safe for diabetics, but actively beneficial for glucose metabolism. The person with diabetes can keep their coffee ritual fully intact. They simply remove the sugar that was never what they loved about it anyway. What people love about coffee is the aroma, the warmth, the ritual, the mild energy boost, the social dimension. None of those come from sugar. All of those remain in pure coffee. This is perhaps the most liberating insight in this series. You don't have to give up coffee. You just have to drink it the way it was meant to be drunk. Pure, the systematic review that builds the strongest case. A 2021 systematic review and meta-analysis in the Journal of Nutritional Science analyzed 30 prospective studies with over 1.3 million participants following habitual coffee drinkers over years. Conclusion: habitual coffee consumption was associated with significant reduction in type 2 diabetes risk, with a clear dose-response relationship for each additional cup per day up to 6. The central mechanism confirmed across multiple studies: chlorogenic acid inhibition of hepatic glucose 6-phosphatase, with measurable effect on fasting glucose and postprandial glucose area under the curve. Supporting mechanisms: GLP-1 stimulation, AMPK activation, anti-inflammatory effects on pancreatic beta cells. This body of evidence, 30 prospective studies, 1.3 million participants, consistent dose response, confirmed mechanism, is one of the most robust in nutritional epidemiology for any single food. Coffee, properly consumed, is among the most defensible dietary choices a person with diabetes can make. 7 ways, a daily ritual elevated to metabolic strategy, a more pleasurable and better controlled life with diabetes. God bless you and give you much health. Until next time. Precautions for specific populations. While the evidence strongly supports pure coffee consumption for most people with type 2 diabetes, some individuals require modification. People with arrhythmias or caffeine sensitivity. Decaffeinated coffee provides identical glycemic benefits without caffeine. People with severe GERD or gastric ulcers. Coffee's acidity may worsen symptoms. Consult your doctor. People with poorly controlled hypertension. Moderate coffee consumption, 2 to 3 cups, is generally safe, but monitor blood pressure response. Pregnant women with gestational diabetes. Caffeine limits during pregnancy apply. Discuss with your OB/GYN. People taking certain medications. Caffeine can interact with some medications, including quinolone antibiotics and certain antidepressants. Check with your pharmacist. For the vast majority of people with type 2 diabetes, pure coffee in moderate to moderate high quantities, 3 to 6 cups per day, is not only safe, but among the most beneficial dietary choices available. With the 7 ways in this video, coffee becomes a tool, not just a pleasure. Every pure cup before meals with cinnamon distributed throughout the day works for your glucose metabolism. God bless you. Until next time, summary for action today. The change with the single highest impact you can make right now. If you drink coffee with sugar, eliminate the sugar starting with your next cup. That single change, removing the sugar that was nullifying coffee's protective mechanisms, will show measurable improvement in your fasting glucose within days. The second change, move your first cup to 20 minutes before breakfast rather than after. The third, add a pinch of Ceylon cinnamon. These 3 changes together, starting today, can reduce your fasting glucose by 15 to 20% and your postprandial peaks by 20 to 30% within 2 to 3 weeks. No new food, no supplement, no prescription, just your existing daily coffee ritual optimized. 7 ways. A daily pleasure elevated to metabolic strategy. God bless you and give you much health. Until next time, with more evidence-based tips for living better with diabetes. 7 ways. A daily ritual converted into a documented metabolic tool. Pure coffee is your most accessible ally for blood sugar control. God bless you. Until next time, with more evidence-based tips for a healthier life with diabetes. The evidence is clear. The glucometer will confirm it. God bless you. Amen. Cheers to your health.